Hello students, hope you're doing well. So I've already sent you the notes of the first unit regarding the basics of international trade. So I've just prepared this video to acquaint you with the theories because they're a little technical and I know only by reading notes you will not be able to understand them. So let me give you a brief introduction of international trade. So you can see my screen and you can see that this is something which connects each one of us, each countries. The reason why we have to look forward towards international trade is that because we are not self-sufficient. As you all know, that we are mutually dependent on each other. On one country is dependent on another country. So we cannot say that we are self-sufficient as Indians. We are self-sufficient. We do not need to have a trade relations with X country or Y country or anybody. So what this international trade helps us is by, like, we are good at something, other countries good at something. So what we can do that we can focus on preparing the things that we are good at and let them prepare the things that they are good at. They can purchase their thing and they can purchase ours. And automatically this will help us in developing our economy. So both of us will get the money, both of us will develop. This is actually what basic introduction of international trade. As I know that you know what is international trade is all about. So you can see this diagram which makes it more clear, like Malaysia and New Zealand. I have just taken this picture. So you can see the Malaysians are, they're exporting the palm oil to the New Zealand people, and the New Zealand people, they are selling the cheese to Malaysia. So you can see how we are mutually interdependent on each other, and how by this mutual interdependency, we are able to accelerate or we are able to contribute towards our economy. Next, so the next topic that I'm supposed to cover today is the international trade theory. So I'll be covering the first three theories today, and then the last two I'll try to cover in the next lecture, the next video. So the first theory is theory of mercantilism. So I'm not going to go into a lot of technicalities to make it more complicated. I'll try to make it a little simple. If we can just focus on this picture, you can see the orientation of the objective of mercantilism is to hold treasures. Now, the objective what the country was is that the country wants to become rich. They wants to hold treasures. They wants to be in a dictating position. So how they can do it? By exceeding the exports and reducing the imports. They want to sell their things to others, but they do not want to purchase from others so that their wealth is increasing. And they want to purchase what? They want to purchase, you can see in this diagram, there is mother, then colonies. So they will be selling the things to the colonies and they'll be purchasing the gold, silver to make their currency strong, to make their economy strong. So the basic objective of this kind of a system or this kind of a theory is that the countries, the big countries, they are more oriented towards one thing, that is to become the power. And how they can become a big power, how they can earn or store treasure, is that by accelerating the exports and reducing the imports. So they'll not let others earn anything out of their country, but they will be earning a lot from the others. That is the orientation. So this is, you can say, like the theories here. First of all, you should all try to understand the theories that we are discussing here. They are just theories, academic theories, okay? So won't say this is kind of an experiment that has been studied by different propounders who have propounded the theories, okay? So automatically I won't say that this is applicable. It is somewhere or the other applicable today also. In mercantilism, people say that China is doing this kind of a thing. China is trying to, regulate the market and try to convince people to purchase their items because they are selling it at a lower price, so that other countries' products are expensive in compared to the Chinese product. So this kind of things are happening, okay? So how do they achieve this mercantilism? How do they achieve this? First point you can see is restrictions on imports. And I've already told you the objective is to accelerate what? They want to accelerate the exports. So how they will restrict the imports? Trade barriers, quota, tariffs. Tariffs is there. So what they will do? More of a tax. If you're importing a product, automatically it becomes expensive. Automatically it will discourage imports. So you'll not be importing the things. Next is accumulation of foreign currency reserve. golds and silver to make the economy strong. So they're only purchasing, or they're only getting the golds, the silver, and the currency reserve from the other countries. Granting of state monopolies to particular firms, especially those associated with trade and shipping. Now, basically, to understand this point, you have to understand, like the time when the Britishers were there as a ruler, East India Company, and the Britishers were there, they have many colonies in different countries. So whatever good thing was there in that country, they tried to, work on it so that they can get a lot of it. So the same way, this point tells us that the state is trying to get a monopoly over those firms, which is, you can say, which gives you more of the profit, like trade and shipping. You're going to get more money. So they want to get hold of these firms. They want to get hold of these firms so that they're able to earn more and more profit. Next is subsidies to export industries to give competitive advantage in global market. So what they're doing, they're giving subsidies to the export industries so that they are motivated to export more and more, and the balance of trade is favorable. Because automatically balance of trade is dependent on two things, that is the exports and the imports. So automatically when we have more of exports and less of imports, then automatically the balance of trade is favorable. Next point says, government invests in research and development to maximize efficiency and capacity of the domestic industry. Now the next focus is, don't buy the product from outsiders, only purchase the things from within the country. Okay. Now people also say that Mr. Trump, he has also tried to utilize this theory of mercantilism, where he say, buy in America. That is, whatever is manufactured within the country of America, you should buy that only. So it's somewhere I asking the people not to purchase from outside. So automatically, when you are investing money in the research and the development, you're trying to work upon your domestic companies so that they are able to, domestic industries to produce better quality products, and so that we are not dependent on other countries for that. Okay. The next is allowing copyright intellectual theft from foreign companies. Now what we are doing, especially China is good at that, we can say. What they generally do, they wait for the bigger countries to develop something new. And once that thing is developed, they try to copy, make a cheap copy of that. And automatically what they do, they dump the market with such cheap products, and automatically we also use all these things. So this is allowed in case of mercantilism. That's where they're doing it. Limiting wages and consumption of the working class to enable greater profit to stay with the merchant class. Now here the focus is to get more money to the merchant class. They are not thinking about overall development. They are not thinking about raising the standard of living of the poor people or the workers or the lower middle class. They're only concentrated towards the wealth collection of the merchant class. They want the business people to earn more and more and more by having more profit margin, so that the burden will come straight away on the consumers. Then control of colonies, making colonies buy from empire country and taking control of colonies' wealth. That means the parent or the mother country, whatever they're manufacturing, the other colonies or the countries who are under the control of those that mother country will have to buy them. Whether they can purchase, manufacture things cheaper or better quality, but still they are compelled not to buy it from, not to use their own manufactured product, but to buy it from the mother country, so that the wealth is being transferred in that direction. Okay. So I hope that is a little bit clear to you what is mercantilism, what it's all about. Next theory is absolute cost theory. Now this theory was propounded by Adam Smith in his book Wealth of Nations in 1776 publication. Now what this theory says all about? First of all, there are certain assumptions that we should know about the theory. That is, trade is between two countries only. Only two commodities are being traded. Free trade exists between the countries, and only of cost of production that is concerned is labor. Now, what is your absolute advantage theory? Now, or absolute cost theory, whatever you call it. Okay. Now, here you can see there is an example that I have There are two examples actually. So let's deal it one by one. Let's see the first example where we have two countries actually. One is England, another one is Portugal, right? So England, the hours of labor required to produce 1 unit of cloth is 60, and for wine in England is 110. For Portugal, it's 120, and wine, it's 70. So now what England should do and what Portugal should do, which product they should manufacture and which they should not, because if they are manufacturing both the products, what is happening, they are wasting their labor because they have an advantage in one of them now. So this theory talks about that we should try to know in which manufacturing of which product we are using the least labor and getting the maximum output. So here we can see in case of cloth, England is using 60 hours of labor. So they are quite competent in preparing cloth, whereas Portugal is using 70 hours of labor in preparing wine. So what does this theory say is that England should focus on manufacturing cloth and Portugal should focus on manufacturing wine. They should try to depute this other this labors which they're using in the other products, should try to, like Portugal should try to use this 120 hours of labor in manufacturing wine only. That will be more productive for them, and the English should try to use the labor that is being used in wine in manufacturing cloth. That will be more profitable for them. Let's take another example. You can see here that we have two countries, that is India and China, and then there's two example of wheat and cloth that we have taken. Now here is output. Now one labor is getting an output of wheat of 20 output of wheat, whereas in case of China it's giving 8 output. Then again in case of cloth, one labor is getting 6, and in China it is 14. So what we can see from here, it's really clear that India should focus on manufacturing wheat and China should focus on manufacturing cloth, and rest they can export and import, right? Next, another example is there where US can produce 20 planes and France can produce 12 planes. So now you were here, you can pause the video and just try to find out which one would be better. So automatically from the previous examples, you are aware that US can produce 20 planes. So automatically they have an advantage over the France and they should try to manufacture the planes. The same case, Cuba takes 4 hours to make a TV and 12 hours to make a salsa. Mexico takes 1 hour to make a TV and 5 hours to make salsa. Now here also their question comes, then what should Cuba make and what should Mexico make? From straight away here we can say Mexico should try to make the TV also and the salsa also, because they are using the minimum labor which is required, and they should focus. So Cuba should think of doing something else which is they are more good at. I hope now you understand what the theory says. The next theory is comparative cost theory. Now this theory has been propounded by David Ricardo. This is also known as Ricardian theory. Okay, and this theory is basically talks about the opportunity cost of trade. Now, what is opportunity cost? That means when we have two options, option A and option B, and we are trying to go for option A and we are leaving the option B, then the loss that we are bearing by not opting B is the opportunity cost. Because see, whenever we have two options, like for example, being a BBA student, after doing this BBA, you have two options, else to prepare for the government examinations or else to go for an MBA. So you take a decision of going for a government examination, then automatically there's an opportunity lost. You have lost the opportunity of doing MBA, and there is some cost to it because automatically after 2 years you would be in a better position to do a job, wherein here there is a risk. Maybe you can get it or maybe you will not get a job. I'm just giving an example. So opportunity cost basically talks about how, like, with the loss that you're going to bear because of losing or saying no to an additional opportunity that was available or additional option that was available. So let's see the example over here. Let's take the same example that we were discussing about US producing planes and France producing planes, but automatically this comparative cost Automatically from the name, you can identify comparison is to be done. So here we need a comparison. So what we have done, we have included cruise ships also. So US can produce 20 planes or 2 cruise ships. France can produce 20 planes or 2 cruise ships. Now, how to take a decision in this case? Now, in this case, as I've already told you, we have to go for one thing, that is opportunity cost. So how to calculate the opportunity cost? Simply, if you can just, I've tried to insert this table. You can just see the table. US can produce 20 planes and 2 cruise ships. France, 12 planes and 2 cruise ships. So so what is the cost of one plane? The cost of one plane is 1/10 cruise. We have straight away divided it. Okay, we have straight away divided, and from dividing we can see 1/10 cruise. And in case of France, it is 1/6 cruise. You can see it's 2/12 and it's 2/10, 2/20. And then we have tried to calculate the cost of opportunity cost of one cruise, that is 10 planes, and in this case it is 6 planes. Now, from this it is quite clear that the opportunity cost among both France and US is the US has got a lesser opportunity cost in production of planes as compared to France. It is 1/10 and it is 1/6. So automatically US should focus on manufacturing the planes, and whereas here we can see the opportunity cost, that is France has got a lesser opportunity cost, that is one cruise cost is 6 planes. So France should focus on manufacturing the cruise ship. So here we are comparing on the basis of the opportunity cost. In the previous case, we were saying by the labor intensity. So where the labor is being used more or where the labor is being used less. On the basis of that, we can take a decision on how to do it and how not to do it. So I hope the things that we have done or the video that I've tried to prepare for you is helpful for you. And I hope that you have understand the concept, and I'll try to upload the next video as soon as possible. Thanks for listening.